someone else's shoes. So that is why we have our main speaker today. So Lois Bugg Shadrick is going to be the one who's coming up today to speak, and she has done plenty of work around the country and internationally, helping different corporations and different nonprofits kind of be able to realize what diversity can bring to the organization and the value in being able to recognize people's differences. So if you don't mind helping me invite up Lois Bugg Shadrick.
Now, you know, I don't know about you, but hearing my own voice sounds really freaky, but I'm going to pretend like I'm not doing that, hearing myself anyway. So, you know, having conversations about race can be uncomfortable, but I'm very clear that getting to know someone individually as opposed to what we see in the media or what we see from a distance makes all the difference in the world in connecting and communicating. That takes a safe space. So, well, that's me. Okay, so when I do these talks and conversations around the country and internationally, start with a set of ground rules. At really long workshops, those ground rules, we actually synthesize them together. I've been doing this a while, over 20 years, don't tell nobody. So these are kind of the ones that we always come up with. Use I statements, you're speaking for yourself. I mean, I know I'm standing up here and I'm this gorgeous, voluptuous African-American woman that wears glasses. But I promise you, I'm only speaking for myself and my experience and what I've seen or heard. So I'm going to use I statements so that you're clear that what I'm talking about is my experience. I promise I don't speak for every African American in the country. I couldn't possibly do that. Confidentiality. So that's more like what's said here stays here. We have a reasonable expectation of anonymity, and we know that that doesn't always hold true, so speak with that in mind. One person at a time so that we can hear everyone. And this one, all opinions are valid, so there's nothing to fight about. Often, in having conversations about race, people have an opinion, and then someone has a different opinion, and so people start, you know, trying to convince someone of something. But we don't need to do that because all opinions are valid. There's nothing to fight about. And then finally, listen generously. Stephen Covey has this saying, listen for understanding. You know, as we're having conversations with the people next to us today, whatever comes out of their mouth, maybe the first time information or the first time they're like articulating this topic. So it may not come out perfectly, but if you're listening generously and listening for understanding, it gives people the space to continue with the conversation. So is there anybody, any questions about any of this? I'm going to leave them up here so as we get going. People don't forget. Okay, so I think people thought I was going to be like doing this big talk. I'm not. I'm just going to set some stuff up. We're going to have a conversation. You're going to be talking to the people who you're sitting next to and the people you're sitting around. This is the agenda. Now, I know some people like to have the slides read to them, but I'm not really big on that. Because more or less we all can read at one level or another. I try to keep it simple enough. So we're going to do an exercise, we're going to debrief it, we're going to talk about it, and then we're going to listen to some music. Go pretty fast. So the intended outcomes. Just to get people to start thinking about what they think or, you know, what they feel about a subject. Increase your sensitivity and understanding of people who walk different paths. And, you know, in as as much as possible, giving you some different perspectives on current issues. Okay, so how did I get here? Real quick, I have a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. That turned into a telecommunications job working for AT&T and Lucid Technology. A woman in STEM. An African-American woman in STEM. So, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. So, I'd be at work and we'd be at meetings, and the dynamics were kind of interesting. I'd say something, and then other people would say something, and then some guy would say something. He said what I had already said, and then all of a sudden it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. It's like, well, didn't I bring that up? Or I had an idea or a hunch or a feeling, something, and when I had it, it was like voodoo or women's intuition. Not that I was, fully trained and a subject matter expert and pulled all that stuff in. So, I'd be working on teams, predominantly men, and then I'd have to translate woman speak and man speak, and I'd have to translate, what was going on in a dynamic, especially, I did a lot of work in Asia. It was interesting. So, working for this large corporation, people kept asking me to come around and talk to them about everybody working better together. And one thing snowballed into another, and then I was doing it for outside organizations. We brought in an outside consulting firm, and then I started working with her as we went out and did conversations for inclusion and diversity. And it's been going that way for about 20 years, and then Ferguson happened. And I was pretty torn. Not like it was anything new or surprising, but, I really saw it as an opportunity for people to start a dialogue, have a conversation. But, that was just a thought. So that happened. And I, was upset and sad, and then I went about my business. And then New York and Cleveland and South Carolina and then Sandy Bland in Texas. And that was the last straw for me. I just moved here to Kansas in January, and I have a house in Downers Grove, Illinois. That's 2 towns away from Naperville, where Sandy Bland is from. And, she was going to Prairie View. I went to Historical Black University in Louisiana. We played Prairie View all the time. And show of hands, how many people know about the Sandy Bland story? Incident? Problem? So she was going to start a job on Monday at Prairie View as a counselor. On Friday or Saturday, there was police lights behind her. She pulled over, an altercation. She got dragged out of the car, sort of. He reached in, she got out. He wrestled her to the ground. She spent the weekend in jail. And on Monday morning, they found her in her jail cell, not alive anymore. And I was like, you know what? We really need to have conversations so that when there's an opportunity to de-escalate, we actually do that, de-escalate, as opposed to escalate tension-filled situations. So, I think the best way to start that is just to take a look for ourselves. So, we're going to start with the exercise. So, in your chair, there is a piece of paper. It says racial inventory. If you don't have one, share with the person next to you. We just need to get scores off of this. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to fill this out and total up your answers. And then the people who are sitting in these seats in the middle here, have a score sheet. If everybody passes their papers to the center after you've totaled it up, we can figure out some demographics around race. So when you're done doing that, and I'll be passing around pens and things. When you're done doing that, there is some questions for you to discuss with the person sitting next to you. So we're gonna move on to the next piece. Everybody pick a partner. Just one other person. And I know the roads are odd. That's fine. And I'm going to pick the third question. On a scale of 1 to 10, what impact has it had on, have you noticed race? What impact has it had on your life? Who do you think you share your views with or experiences of race? On a scale from 1 to 10. So that's the question you guys are going to discuss with your partner. Does everybody have a partner? Yes, you can have a triad. You can have a triad. It's okay. Triads work. The person with the biggest ears goes first. I'll give you 1 minute apiece. Cool. Dun dun. Okay, so the scores for people who identify themselves as white, between like 77 and 115. African Americans, around 60. Hispanics, 55. Asian, 56. So it's like an order of magnitude, almost like twice the score. So, a couple of questions. Before you saw the results, what did you think the results would be?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. And what does the score mean? Like, how does that play out in your everyday lives? Given the homework. So, you know, you could want to know more from someone who is of a different race than you, but if you're not in groups with them, then that's not going to happen. Building sustainable relationships where you feel safe enough to have conversations and everyone's listening generously, and so you can ask the awkward question because the person's not going to jump down your throat. But if people aren't in your proximity, then that makes it doubly hard to do that. So today's conversation was mostly just to get people started thinking about what they might want to do to broaden their circle and reach. This isn't a topic that I feel you could, you know, do something and ask people a bunch of questions, then ask them to share and get things all stirred up in 20 minutes. I didn't want to go there. I mean, I could go there, but I'm more interested in creating a sustainable conversation that we revisit and people get comfortable with. So I'm just going to leave you with a couple of things. 2 weeks from now, what will you remember from the inventory? If people want to share that. And then we're going to talk about some things that you can do between now and the next time we have a conversation to broaden your horizons. Before we do that, though, is there anyone who wanted to address the questions from the homework? I kind of skipped that a little bit. So, some people did the homework, some people didn't. But then you all had an opportunity to look at a couple of the homework questions with the person sitting next to you. Is anyone interested in sharing anything from the homework? And you so don't have to.
This isn't really from the homework, it's just an observation of my own experience. Obviously, it wasn't with a microphone. I was married to a black man before I met him. And I had always thought that race was a non-issue for me, so we should treat it as a non-issue, and then it'll be a non-issue. And being with his family, especially his grandmother, who talked about things, she would just talk, you know, matter-of-factly about the things she had experienced growing up, and it made me much more aware that ignoring it doesn't mean it never existed, or it doesn't mean it doesn't exist now.
Yeah.
So that just made me more aware in my mind.
Yeah, your antenna were up then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had more, I think I had more sensitivity to things that people might experience that I have no clue about.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Yes, I think race still does matter. I was kind of the opinion that until Ferguson that, hey, we elected a black president. We haven't had anything come up in a long time. Rodney King was a long time ago. And then all of a sudden, it seemed like it just started happening over and over and over again. And it really, really opened my eyes. And it really made me question and delve into a lot of the things as to why, so many African American men are in prison, why they aren't around for their children, to raise their children, because they're in prison, because they're victim of this systemic abuse. It really, really opened my eyes and made me start to realize there is still a very serious problem with race in this country, and that by saying it doesn't exist and we're colorblind, we have a black president, it really sweeps it under the rug in a really negative way, and we need to address that.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, one observation I would have around, things showing up, it's only because of technology, right? I don't think the numbers have changed very much, but when I can record you with my phone, then everybody gets to see, and I think that's what's happened recently, is people have been able to record it, because it never stopped happening. It never got less. But now we've got YouTube, and it's a good thing or a bad thing, it's a thing.
Yeah, I just had a thought on all the different things that intersect with race, like the class, the low income, the income disparities, and also the war on drugs seems to really have thrown up a couple other things in there that make it not just race, it makes it much greater system problem.
Thank you for sharing. Oh.
Hi, I just wanted to ask maybe what your approach would be. I oftentimes feel like the more and more we bring attention to the division that we have, the more and more it perpetuates the division. And I've seen some of my friends share with their children, you're going to have to work twice as hard to get where you're, to get on with your competition, to be, on equal playing field and all of that. And I just wonder if it's becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy at some point to continue to tell the kids, this is all against you, this is everything you're going to have to overcome just to be on an even playing field, instead of maybe empowering them and not making them aware, because obviously we don't want to brush things under the rug, but I also don't want them to have the attitude of a defeatist saying, well, if it's not even going to work out for me anyway, why should I try? I feel like sometimes it's taken to that extreme, and I just wonder, how do we teach our kids that it exists and we need to change it, but we don't make it so bad for them that they feel defeated before they even begin?
Yeah, thanks for that. Well, that's a very complex and issue. I think this stuff, instilling in our kids that they can do anything that they want to do and that they're being supported is where it starts at home. I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood, and my family prepared me, and my family prepared me to excel. So I think it's conversations that you have, so you don't just talk about you've got to be twice as good. Let's make you twice as good. So that part of it won't be an issue. So yeah, that's continuous conversations and just having them notice without saying, without being like paranoid about it.
Do you want to take more?
Yes, I want to take at least one more. At least Luke.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just want to say, I think it's a little weird that we always call Obama our first black president when he's half black, half white. And I feel like you're kind of looking past the other half of his heritage by saying he's our first black president. Because the thing is, how would his mom feel? She passed on half his genes too. So I think to me, it's kind of weird that people are always like, he's our first black president. He's our first half black president. He's our first half white president, as far as I know. But I think it's weird that we talk about that, not the person who he is, and like what he's done, and like what he did before, and to become president, and what he's done since. And everybody's still talking about the fact that he's black. And I think you are who, what you do, not like just your genes.
Yeah, and so when your outward appearance hasn't influenced how other people interact with you, then it's easy to like not see the soup that we're all swimming in. Barack Obama has darker skin, darker than a paper bag for those, yeah, you guys probably don't even, but that's okay. We'll talk about that, we'll talk about that some other time. The world sees him as black or African American. The world interacts with him that way. So that's how, and he identifies with that. And he claims his mother, he claims his birthright. But the world interacts with him a particular way. And I think he's reacting to that. And, media likes to do their whole thing, sensationalism and everything, because it sells whatever they're selling. But I wouldn't, it's easy to, I don't want to have a conversation about his race or a conversation about not his race be the focal point. I believe that question is more, doing introspection and reflection ourselves around why, what about that is uncomfortable for us. That's actually where the hard conversation about race comes in, because people are people. We're all very quirky and do kooky things and have all sorts of mannerisms and tics. And last slide. Oh, not last slide. We've got one more. How are we doing on time? Are people like, I'm over 20 minutes, honey? 5 to 7 minutes? Oh, yeah, we're good.
Hi. I'm pretty nervous to speak.
No, that's fine.
I might get lost a little bit in my thought process here, but when we started this, I didn't think it would happen accidentally. And I started to actually being aware about all the occasions in which my race has affected me. I know that the way it's affected me has been less. There's been so many people. As you can see, I'm probably the only person that we can be identified, besides maybe another person, which I'm not certain, as Hispanic. I didn't expect that score.
Yeah.
I feel that I really would have loved someone to have came forward and asked how it's impacted me. Not one person initiated a response. I guess I would think that with the Hispanic population growing, that I wouldn't feel so separated. But I am Hispanic. I identify as white. I grew up white. I had a father who was an immigrant. I've always conflicted on everything. I don't speak Spanish. I have no cultural diversity, and I don't fit in anywhere.
You fit in here, though.
When people look at me, they see not just my color, but they see me as Muslim sometimes. They see me as Native Indian. They are confused. I'm confused. My name's African American. My family's white, like I said, they're the ones that I grew up with, and I identify with no Mexicans at all. It's affected me since a child in elementary school. I have memories of seclusion, not knowing why. I am affected by the way people perceive me on my skin color and what race they think I am. I remember instances. I have to dress nicer, but that's not who I am, and I don't. If I don't dress nicer, I have a target on me. I'm automatically going to be looked at as somebody who is poor, doing something unethical. For somebody to be able to dress lesser than me, who doesn't have a skin color, they can get away with things easier. And when I go out in public, I have kids that are white. Their skin color is white. And I have to convince people that my beautiful children are mine. They're not my cousins, they're not my relatives, they're not my friends.
And you're not babysitting.
And so, exactly. I can't even imagine what other people would go through if just those few things really affect my life in a bigger way than I do. I can't make friends easily because I don't identify. I have socially isolated myself because I don't know where I belong. It's impacted me significantly. And honestly, just to ask somebody, it makes a big difference because there are people willing to speak about it. And I will say that I, myself, I think about race every day. Every day, not just my race. The person next to me, what they think of me, what the Muslim group in the mall thinks of me when I'm not covered because they have somehow thought I am Muslim. It's so much of an expectation to try to fit in when you don't know where people think you are. So many different things, and you don't know who to be. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Individuals with personal stories. Thank you so much for having me here today. I think that this is the start of having us think about how we can expand our reach for people who don't look like us. And Keisha said absolutely the right thing. You've got to be willing to ask, talk, share.